Welcome back to this month's Roundtable, your all-in-one comprehensive view of what's happening across the real estate industry, straight from some of the industry's earliest technology adopters and foremost experts in technology, marketing, brokerage, government policy, capital, construction, and cybersecurity. As always, this is a three-part show. Part one, introductions and what's new for each of our Roundtable hosts in their business sector. Part two, sector focus. We unpack the past month's biggest news and paradigm shifts. And part three, what does this mean for your real estate businesses and what can you do for the next 30 days to outpace your competition? I'm Andreas Senie, founder of CRECo Collaborative, brokerage owner of EAC Properties and technology growth strategist. Joining me this month is none other than Dan Wagner, government relations, all things political, wonderful, and inland. Dan, nice to have you back with us.
Honored to be here, Andreas. You are the best.
Appreciate that. Also back this month after some time away, none other than Chris Abel. Chris Abel, ABC, Associated Builders and Contractors, all things construction. Chris, welcome back.
Thank you. Feels like I've been away for a long time here.
I barely recognize you.
Yeah. I had to cut the beard down a little bit.
And if I barely recognize you, Saul Klein, back again, Realtor Emeritus, CEO of one of the largest associations of realtors, MLSs out of California until now, because I believe Florida now has the largest one. They just merged. But we're going to hear more on that again in a little bit. Saul, nice to see you as well.
Good to be
We've
back.
got a full night ahead of us, a fun-packed hour, a candid conversation. I do want to let everyone here know and let our audience know, a special thank you, 6,376 viewers last month.
Nice.
68% US-based, 18% Europe-based. So our U.S. audience, you need to share more with your local friends. 11% out of Asia and South Africa, 2%, South America, 1%. If not now, when? You've got all the conferences. We've got NAREIT, we've got NAR, we've got ICSC. Becca Carlson won't be with us this month. She is busy getting ready for the largest luncheon to be held at the International Council for Shopping Centers, which is now named a little differently, but it'll forever be known as ICSC to me. And we look forward to seeing her next month. So, Dan, you're over to my right in our Brady Bunch wheel today. What's the latest out of your neck of the woods?
Yeah, so it's been I've been busy. I've been DC a lot. I was there for NAREIT for their Hill visits, and then I was there for the Federation of Exchange Accommodators. And I will just say that it is so vital that we have our wonderful National Association of Realtors. I met with Shannon McGann and their leadership there. They have our realtors fighting for us on Capitol Hill every day, because a little bit later on I'll get into some of the discussion. But man, it is so important, and there's so much going on in Washington. It's unbelievable.
Understood. Well, I'm excited to hear that, Chris. It's been a long time. I know construction hasn't stopped. People are building. What's the latest on your neck of the woods?
Everyone's building. There's still, up here in the Northeast in Connecticut, still waiting for those, still early on. Last year, I remember talking about how the Summer Slammers came in, the bigger projects came in a little bit late, and it looks like that is following trend again. Biggest news this week, Construction Safety Week, wrapping up tomorrow. I was at a conference in Indianapolis last week. Tons of talk about data centers, tons of talk about AI. And just a quick plug, tomorrow I'll probably be signing this Foundation for Wellness, guiding principles for mental health, suicide prevention, and substance abuse in the Connecticut construction industry. So I'll be at that signing tomorrow morning, and pretty excited to be involved with that.
Well, no, that's fantastic. And obviously, mental health is nothing to kid about, right? So if we could share a link, we'd love to. I'm sure our audience would love to get involved.
Absolutely.
I believe the studies show that 1 in 2 households are affected by something to do with mental health. It's a massive number.
Yeah.
Chris, I'm on the board of the National Alliance of Mental Illness for DuPage County, and it is such a big deal to get all mental stuff out of the closet and shine a light on it, because our veterans are killing themselves, 22 a day supposedly, and also our first responders, and we got to get people to be aware that they got to get help. They got to get help, right?
Yeah, it's exciting that the state of Connecticut, no matter what side, it's not a political issue, it's not a union merit job issue. everyone's kind of got together to put these guiding principles together for it. So it's obviously not just about keeping limbs and making sure everyone goes home at night physically from the job site, but they're really attacking the mental stuff. So pretty excited. I'll hopefully the next one show I'll be able to talk about the experience there.
Wow.
Short,
Yeah.
it's a short signing, but it means a lot. So.
No, any steps in the right direction when it comes to mental health, and yeah, let's share it, let's promote it.
For sure.
Well, you're in California. I know they take care of mental health over in California better than we do. What's the latest and greatest on your neck of the woods, on our other coast?
It's being in real estate is just kind of an exciting thing to be involved in, right? Whether or not you're involved in and even thinking about being able to build generational wealth through the ownership of real estate, or you're dealing with real estate professionals where real estate's their career. So there's always something to be excited about. Right now, the residential real estate industry is going through a major transition. You got billion-dollar companies fighting one another. You've got lots of litigation. You've got regulation and innovation. So there's just plenty to talk about, plenty to go around. And in my market, and I'm in San Diego, so it's just typically San Diego's a pretty good market, just like the weather, year round. And so even though interest rates might inch up a little bit, this is still a desirable place to live, regardless of what people might think about the politics of California. San Diego's a great place.
Well, in talking about mental health, the real estate industry is one that it takes great fortitude of mental health, certainly. I'm curious how California is handling data centers. I know Dan and I talked briefly on data centers, and I know, Chris, you just brought up data centers, so clearly that's the biggest topic around town. I'm curious, starting back to you, Saul, in California, are data centers as big a thing? And then since we got to build them, Chris, please.
Well, I'm sure they are, but in San Diego, I don't know anybody who's building a data center. The land's just too expensive.
Well, you guys aren't going to use any AI? I mean,
so we're using AI. I mean, agents are using it, and we use it internally in our company. Every day we find new uses for for artificial intelligence. And I mean, I told you this graphic I created. All I had to do was have a conversation with myself and then turn that conversation into a graphic. The other day I went for a walk, and on the walk I'm talking about, this particular real estate brokerage purchased this particular real estate brokerage, and this particular company purchased this particular company. Tell me about these companies. And so I get the feedback about the companies. And then when I was done walking, I thought, geez, I'm going to do that more often. I'm going to interview myself on a regular basis. And because I can't research it all, with the time I have, but the AI is just such a great research tool for me that I can't imagine now not having it.
Well, it's those with intellect and intelligence can now act on more of it much faster, right? We're AI enabled end to end. As far as the Connecticut markets, they're thriving, they're growing. Retail's in its priming glory, which is by far my favorite asset. Followed up by office flight to quality, multifamily, limited construction, but strong demand, as is everywhere and anywhere. But retail mixed use is where to be. I'm curious, which AI model did you use? Which one are you on?
Yeah, so I have the paid models, and this particular graphic is ChatGPT, but I also use Claude, and pretty much just rotate between the two. And it's interesting the differences you get between the two, asking it the same thing. And I'll create something in one and then take it over to the other and have it check it for me. So it's almost like a hobby, but it's so critical to the things I do now. And I don't go to Google very much anymore. I'd rather just go to one of the AI models and ask it. And I don't have to fight through the ads.
Or find the links.
Right, or find the
Copilot is and Copilot's what I use at Inland. That's what we all use as well. But I will tell you that the data center world, if you got into it early, I think you made it. right now it's really difficult to be able to go through that gauntlet of getting it approved. So many people are not in my backyard, and it's been a big political hot potato now. So what the folks that got in, they're happy, and we all need the centers, the data centers, but it's going to be hard going forward getting them to be clocked in unless you're in the middle of a desert or someplace like that where there's nobody around.
Well, it's interesting. So real fast, a public service announcement for our audience. Dan mentioned Copilot. As an institution, as a company, you should be, and Saul mentioned premium version. You need a paid version of AI unless you are in fact the product and you're just feeding your intelligence and yourself into a system that everyone else can access. So please, 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 as we all as professionals venture out onto this new era of commercial real estate, be mindful of what you put up into the clouds, such as your financial documentation on your clients, underwriting models, tenant names, expiration dates. These are all things I'd love for you to put up so I can access them and get your intelligence on top of mine. Just kidding. Just be careful. Copilot is a great way to go. Other paid services, please, please, please invest in an AI structure, an AI playbook, and rules. They do matter. Not only do they matter, it's the opportunity to take significant market share. We're end-to-end enabled. We were just today, we ran a bunch of properties through a whole new level of analysis, and it spit out, here's your call list. Here's who you're calling. Here's why you're calling. Here's what to say when you call. Things that it would take me weeks, months, maybe a year to train into an agent. It's now there for them to read it. Whether or not they read it is a different argument, but it's all there. It's all there in an incredible way.
Andreas, think about, I'm sure you've probably seen this. I haven't seen it. I just think about it. Where we used to estimate expenses on an apartment building might be something like 38%. But if there's a rich enough pool of data, you could get much better statistics on a particular aged building. What's the maintenance costs on it? And the more that you can feed into it, the better the results going to be. And so I think people that use it in investment properties, looking for properties, being able to compare one property against another property, just to save all that time, to be able to just plug in particular property, particular part of town, a particular age. What are my maintenance costs going to be over the next 5 years?
Well, and you're touching on something near and dear to me. Out of stealth mode is RakeML. RakeML does, in fact, grade in real time assets and properties based on real weather impact, real degradation of components, right? How old is that roof? Oh, wait, we had 3 major storms. Now, where's the health of that roof? When will it be repaired? So on. So it's all happening now. And that's why we need data centers. To Dan's point, those have got in early. There's still some room, I think. Chris, what's going on?
There's room, but there's a lot of politics now.
So a lot of politics. Just to take one step back, when Andreas, how you were talking about the being careful as to what you're putting into those free sources versus the paid, and a lot of the construction companies starting to write up their own AI processes. Same goes for the IT, any ITB information, any invite to bid information that's going out there from contractors. You might get, I don't want to pick on age, but I'm just going to say younger or more green estimator, not really paying attention to what you just said there, and just start loading in all sorts of information into into an unpaid platform, and you're just making it basically available for anyone else to sneak in and grab it, to use it for their numbers, to bid in their estimating process, and all these types of things. Plus, there was a story that was shared last week at the conference I was in, and it had to do with the fact that the back end of the data, some of the metadata or whatever, I'm not completely well versed on, that was stuck to the documents that were uploaded, really let out some of the secrets and the back end stuff on one of these companies, one of these larger construction companies. And next thing you know, this stuff is just kind of popping up. It's showing up in different places. Their whole process is starting to get copied. When they're sitting in bidding rooms, they're seeing all sorts of different things. So the security side of things along with any of those AI platforms, are, I would say, are probably even more important than just what information is actually coming out to begin with. There's a gentleman, super intelligent gentleman, Nick Espinosa, who did part of the keynote of the conference last week with Security Fanatics. Some of the stuff he shared was just fascinating. Some of the stories had some comedy to them, but even the comedy of errors, it was truly a comedy of errors of what type of information that people were sharing and what type of stuff was actually coming out and what can be looked at as legal and binding versus, this had to do more with bots and things of that nature. For car dealerships and all sorts of different things, what's considered a fair offer, a legal offer, all these different things. And it was, I'll tell you, I felt like I was finally falling into that driver's seat where I'm like, all right, I've been in AI land all month long between webinars, seminars, and things like that. But as far as the data centers go, as Dan said, a lot of political entities creeping in on that. I know in Connecticut, there's talk of, some of the Native American land and them using some of that land to put up the data centers to kind of alleviate some of that, political side of things. But still kind of early on. I see in the down south, in the Texas area, some of the stuff is kind of early, there's some early adopting still going on down there. So who wants them? Who doesn't want them? How they're going to run? Just like anything else, it's all going to come down to money.
Now, you have to consider that all four of us live in blue states.
Yes.
Right. So when we talk about the politics and the political load, just realize that the four of us live in very blue states.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Agreed.
Well, it's not a political show, right?
But you're right. You're right.
We don't have a moratorium on them yet. Not all blue state. I can't say the same for every other blue state. I will say that it's hard to ignore the 80% increase in value once entitled. It's hard to.
Aren't they building a big one in Tennessee?
Well, we're working on one, maybe two now. So we're doing just fine here in the Northeast. Tennessee, why not? Nobody's going to hear the hum. And the arguments you're hearing, it's about the hum, it's about the water, it's about the electric, right? And if you build anything, you're going to have some arguments about noise, the cost to the grid, and traffic, right? But at least the data center doesn't provide a lot of traffic demand, right?
You see that car wash behind me?
No demand, nothing but dollars.
See that car wash? We used to be open 24 hours, but a number of years ago we had to close. We had to close it at like 10 o'clock because of the noise.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Right. I believe it, right?
Yeah.
And I don't see any neon lights in that picture. That might be an old picture, right? But zoning will catch up as it does, and that's how we maintain and keep healthy communities. In some places, not so healthy because it has to catch up, but we're good.
Well, in Illinois, what we have is we put this law in place called CEJA that gets rid of natural gas in Illinois by 2035, and now AI world is coming up, and then quantum computing. And quantum computing takes a huge amount of power, and so now they're looking at possibly repealing that to allow natural gas, because if you're able to have your data center or quantum computing center with a peaker power plant attached to a natural gas one where you generate your own electricity, then that could be a possibility. But there's lots of interesting policies that were put in place for green stuff, and then now they're looking at taking that back, and it is a very big deal with the politics in Illinois anyway, but I think also other places as well.
No, Connecticut as well. I mean, it's one, can we do it, and then how long to do it, right? So our industrial owners that need to upgrade from 400 to 600, they just need more power. That's a 9-month window. I don't know the amperage behind and the demand on a power center, but it's massive. And they're having what are like go-between periods, right? Where they'll bring in generators to power the thing. That's how big the demand is. So it's an incredible asset. It's incredibly to watch. It's credible to be a part of it, but I don't know about it. And I'm sure, Dan, eventually you're going to be at the White House talking to somebody. I'd like to keep
So-
it in Connecticut.
I could get it. So I was in DC for NAREIT and for the Federation Exchange Accommodator. So I'll just quickly highlight, especially now that we've been having our foreign contingent that's downloading us. There's a thing called the Foreign Investment and Real Property Tax Act that we're hoping that can get repealed. But that's a big lift. But the concept is that in the 80s, the Japanese came in and were buying America, and some of the congressmen got freaked out by that, and so they put a bill in or law in that says that if you own real estate and you're for a foreign entity, you will have to pay double the capital gains tax. So it tried to discourage people from doing that. What is so nuts about the whole FERPTIS legislation is that you can't pick up. Rockefeller Center, for example, was bought by Japanese investors. You're not going to pick that up and transport it to Japan. So, we love having foreign investors because the foreign investors are able to come and renovate the property. Buyers renovate and owners maintain. And so the more you can have investors, the better. And so we're hoping that we're able to lift some of the FERPTA legislation so that we can get more foreign investment in the United States. And I know that inland, we're obviously always are looking at buying things, but we are also wanting to get people to invest. And, I can't really go into all those details because of our securities laws, but people are looking at investing, different funds into our platform for institutional investment. So it's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen in Washington over that issue. I will tell you the other thing that kind of blew my mind in Washington is the progressive world is really hoping that they're going to have a big win in November, that the midterms will have the Republicans lose the House. And at this moment, all the bets in Vegas are that the Republicans will lose the House. It's less likely they'll lose the Senate, but the progressive folks are hoping that happens, and then they hope in 2 years to be able to gain the presidency. My Congresswoman, Delia Ramirez, we're very gerrymandered in Illinois, and she lives in Chicago, and she represents us in Wheaton. She's a very nice lady, but she's incredibly progressive. And I met with her chief of staff, and the chief of staff was highlighting that they don't like the 1031 like-cat exchange. You want to cap it at $500,000. And the whole concept of where they are coming from is that from their heart, they believe that no one should be unhoused. And so the idea that people make money off of real estate is a negative thing. And that the moratorium on evictions is something that they're for. And that there's actually she's put a bill in. It's not going to pass this time because obviously President Trump is the president, but they know that, but they're putting this out there to slowly educate other members of Congress and to grow their progressive caucus. And the philosophy that I grew up with of private property rights and it's a capitalist is the best way to go is it really. Like I was talking another language. It was very interesting. Really nice people, good people that mean well, but philosophically there couldn't be a bigger difference. And I think it's important that we all wake up to the fact that the average, the typical blue dog Republican or Democrats or the conservative Democrats, those are going by the wayside, and the more progressive folks are getting in. And it just behooves us all to look to a Shannon McGann from the National Association of Realtors, the head lobbyist, to look to her and the whole FPC program of the National Association of Realtors, where every member of Congress has a realtor attached to them, because it's all going to be our grassroots level working one-on-one. It's not going to be AI. It's not going to be anything else but person to person talking to these members of Congress to be able to make sure to wake them up. But even talking with the realtors, Congresswoman Ramirez is still saying that she's going to be pretty incalcitrant on the 1031 for the future. And when you highlight how it helps underserved areas to renovate and to be like a way for underserved areas to be having property turned over and to be able to invest, it still doesn't resonate. The idea of deferring, like I was trying to explain, it's like a 401k of real estate. It still was the idea that you're deferring the taxes, and we were not connecting. And hopefully more and more people will be able to connect with Delia Ramirez to say, hey, real estate investing and real estate as an industry is something that's really good. And while none of us like homelessness, a lot of homelessness is related to alcoholism, and like we were talking about the mental health issues, and that's probably more of the focus of where the unhoused people are, is more of the mental health area, as opposed to real estate interests stopping people from being housed. So
Dan, you're just too nice. When you describe this progressive thought, you're just too nice to all these people.
He's just towing the line here because we've got both audiences.
But I can tell you that the progressive ideas about taxing more and taking away private property rights are counterproductive. And we don't have one case that we can measure where taxing more or restricting more or giving tenants excessive rights results in a better economy, less homelessness, better mental health. It's just all a bunch of baloney. And for people to believe, and you're right, so we've dumbed down the society over the last 30 or 40 years. And so things that are common sense, like if you and the government spends way too much money, and every night I hear about some new tax that they want to put on, and they want to put it on real estate. And why real estate? Because that's where all the money is.
We're the piggy bank, Sal. We're the piggy bank.
So they want to keep coming after the real estate. I just read one, Prop A in San Diego, city tax, that if you don't live in the house 182 days a year is a $15,000 tax. So that's a tax.
What?
Yeah, that's a tax on a
That's
second home, right?
Wow.
That is.
Go on.
And so it's why, they don't even talk about cutting expenses. They're going to raise the sales tax. It's every single thing. When are we going to go out in the harbor and throw the tea into the water?
Well, so now you're back on our coast, and the fact is the 1031 exchange, if removed, would reduce overall investment, reduce development. It would force those that are cash poor, those assets, to not turn over. There'd be less real estate related output, no construction for Chris's group, right? Lower GDP by billions of dollars annually.
It hurts the people that they talk about helping.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
but that's why they need to be educated. And that's I belong to NAR. I know Saul, you belong. I know Dan belongs. I know Chris would belong if he was a licensee. Important to educate. Sure. Sorry to jump in there.
That's why I'm glad Dan's there. He's just too nice when he talks about this.
So you realize that we're becoming more and more popular, and the amount of people that are watching our show now is a big deal. So I gotta be towing that line. So all people are listening to us.
Well, I don't want to turn off any potential clients either. Let's keep it. Depending on your opinion, the percentages are shifting. Colors and all.
The popularity of Saul Klein is a big deal. Everybody knows that. Everybody tunes in to watch real TV with Saul Klein.
Hey, no, and Saul's, and don't just tune in here for Saul, guys. He's got the Realty Times. He's got a lot of channels, and a lot of ways in which we can talk about progressive or not progressive, red and blue, and the economics of it all. It's incredible. Well, but let's be nice to our let's see, 68% here in North America that is split by some percentage.
Yeah.
Depending on how colorblind you are.
We're all in favor pretty much of the same things. None of us really like homelessness. None of us really like mental instability. I mean, it's like we all want the same things, and some things economically will work, and some things won't, and some things you can go back as far as you want historically, and you're not going to find a model where certain things were more productive. And yet those are the kinds of ideas that are easily spread these days. And you're right, Dan. I think people somehow, the story is not connecting with,
Right.
at least it doesn't seem that way, right? Maybe maybe there's a silent majority, like Richard Nixon said, that's there and we just don't know it.
Well,
So the other issue that I forgot to bring up to let you know about is the House and Senate. So some of the Republican world is becoming more populist, and so a bill passed in the Senate, and Congressman French Hill in the House is holding it right now, which is great. That people that are first-time homeowners are trying to say that the institutional investors are causing first-time homeowners not to be able to get their homes, and so they passed a rule that if it passes the Senate, it passes the House, which we hope it doesn't. You would have anybody that's an institutional investor that has build-to-rent homes, they have to sell those within 7 years. Where you're trying, which takes away private property rights. It artificially disincentivizes people to invest, and it's going to hurt the value of those properties. But the idea of why aren't people getting into selling their homes so that first-time homeowners can have product out there. And Saul, you know this with your MLS, people are not selling because of interest rates. People got locked in at 3%, and they're not going anywhere until those interest rates come down. And so people are looking for an scapegoat, and unfortunately, institutional investors are considered to be the scapegoat. And for a lot of people, thank God the institutional investors are there because they actually have the money to do stuff and they're able to do things. So that's a big issue. And we believe that it's going to be stopped in the House because affordable housing is important. Working on ways to figure out how to get people into homes, all that makes sense. But we just have to, again, it's really sacrosanct for having private property rights and not take away those rights from people that own property.
I want to sell my property to whoever I want to sell my property to. And I don't care if they're an institutional buyer or not. And freezing out institutional buyers is not going to make housing more affordable. If you want to make housing more affordable, get rid of the restrictions, right? Change some of the costs to build, and you'll build more housing. And so the key with affordable housing, in my mind, is lack of inventory. It's not that the wrong people are buying the real estate.
Yes.
Right? They're going at it, in my mind, the wrong way.
Well, Chris, you could talk about building codes, right? I mean, the building codes,
Absolutely.
I'm sure you see, are so expensive in some areas, right?
Oh, absolutely. And Dan, what you just mentioned right there about those interest rates, I mean, that's the reason why I'm in the house that I'm in right now in the room doing this, because, my wife and I have looked and looked and looked and looked and looked, and the volatile interest rates up and down over the past, 6 or 7 years, more up than down. Just doesn't make it. It's just not appetizing. Sorry, Andreas, but just doesn't.
I don't sell homes. There's no 2 a.m. toilet calls on my
Fair
side.
enough. It just doesn't. It's not appetizing for us to lose that interest rate, to go and exactly what you were just saying, to go somewhere and then to start building and have to deal with building codes and have to deal with all sorts of expensive upgrades and all sorts of headaches and red tape that we have to get through to get our home back to being a home and not just a house that we decide to pay more interest on.
Well, and Chris, again, I'm highlighting the realtors. So I was the past president of the Chicago Association of Realtors, and I'm really proud of the fact that the Chicago Association at one time, a variety of years ago, were able to stop this crazy idea that Chicago was going to have all condominiums were going to have to be go back and be retrofitted for fire suppression.
Yeah. Yep.
And that was going to be $20,000 to $30,000 per unit that people had no money for. And I mean, we were able to stop it because we were able to throw a bucket of cold water on these elected officials by using the realtor funds to be able to get the word out of people to call their aldermen. And they couldn't believe the amount of calls that the realtors were able to create because of what some good. It's, no one has a bad idea. No one wants to have people be hurt, but there's realities to what some of these ideas are. And to go in and, if you build a new building, build a sprinkler, that's fine. But to go into some of these older places and say, now you got to put sprinklers in.
Yeah, sprinklers or lighted egress, different lighted egress than, not just the the lighted exit signs and the emergency lights that have, seemingly worked for, I'll say decades and decades, but even longer. But to have people going in and all of a sudden, if you're over a certain floor height, you got to do this or you got to do that. All of a sudden, it's great for the person who has some of the new, the company who's doing the rare company who's found a spot where they can make some money doing things like that, the light egress and different sprinkler systems and different security measures. But outside of that, it's really a costly situation.
One of the reasons that property is not affordable is that the land costs are just such a much greater percentage of the overall value of the property. So one of the solutions, and we're seeing that states and municipalities are adapting to some degree, is to increase density. And if you increase density, then you change a lot of benefits by increasing density. Our fire protection, police protection, more people living in a smaller area, less people driving, walkability. So there are solutions, and we do see governments attacking this. But again, we get back to it's about supply. And if the land itself is too big a percentage of the overall value, then you got to somehow bring the land cost per unit down. And one way to do that is to increase the density.
Or turn it into a data center. But,
or that too. I don't know if I can stand the hum.
And then deal with the political blowback.
Well, I can hear the "not in my backyard" messages pinging my inbox already here.
What's there? One of the not to super deep dive back into the data center thing as far as the political side and all that, but it's just interesting. It's interesting, where some of the red states are even landing. They were talking about that a lot at the conference I was at last week, and they're getting, they're starting to get, and I don't want to turn it into ABC merit shop, union thing, versus union thing, but some of the unions are popping up in some of the red states. They haven't been there in a while. They haven't been, rearing their head, but they figure the data centers are bringing jobs. The data centers are bringing in work, temporary work. So all of a sudden you see some of the unions siding with big business and with big business in the Republican side of things, which it's I won't even say it's not that it's good or bad. It's just it makes things, I don't want to even say confusing, but I'll just say interesting, because it's
Chris, that happened.
You got a lot to watch out there.
A suburb of Chicago, Naperville, you had a really nice area that this building, there was a huge building that was torn down and zoned, for industrial, and this guy bought it, was going to put up a data center. It looked like it was going to be a no-brainer. The unions all came to the city council and supported it, but the NIMBY world rose its head up and it got killed. So this guy is stuck with this. He tore down this building and he thought it was going to be a no-brainer, and boom, it's now possibly they could now turn it into homes instead of, so this industrial area will be homes now. But the data center was killed, and I never thought it could be possible, but you had the unions that were really working to make it happen because they want the jobs.
Yeah. Well, Dan, that's why in the realtor world, we don't talk about being red or blue. We talk about being purple.
Yes.
Right. And it's really about issues and voting and taking sides based on the issues and not on political philosophy. And that's what realtors and realtor politics are all about.
Yes, 100%, Saul. Everything. And
we're gonna add that into the description. Realtor politics only on this show, because it's about revenue and it's about moving forward. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's the realtor party, and I couldn't agree with you more, because the realtor party is the one that is so powerful, because you're able to get people that agree on private property rights, that are conservatives, that are liberals, and we walk hand in hand together in Washington, and we're probably the most bipartisan organization that exists in Washington that's left. And that's been the kind of the sweet spot for us as an industry. And I don't want to see anything to be diluted by our associations. That three-way agreement is terrific. And I don't know, Saul, your experience with the three-way agreement, and then
Bring up a whole
MLS.
different type of politics now with the three-way agreement.
Yeah, what's happening?
There's some updates there for sure.
Yeah, what's the latest you can talk about all the MLS stuff?
Well, the MLS world is interesting because the billion-dollar companies are going after everybody, are going after their own silos of data and listings. And we've got litigation, and we've got regulation, and we've got legislation. And so in the area of MLS, and MLSs really are data companies. And so what we want to do is collect the data, kind of remain neutral, and let business models who can use that data, use it in such a way that they can build their real estate business regardless of their business model. And so that's the line we try to walk in the MLS world. But there's lots of controversy because the big guys are fighting one another and suing one another. And
what are the biggest lawsuits right now?
What's that?
What's the biggest lawsuits right now?
It's probably Batten 2. And so the first was Sitzer Burnett, and Sitzer Burnett was in Missouri, and it was a triple damage, $4 billion judgment against MLSs, against NAR. NAR settled for $450 million or something, and that was on the sell side. So Sitzer Burnett was the sell side, and that's what made us pull the offer of compensation out of the MLS. So MLSs are no longer offers of compensation. But then there's the people who were buying. They said, you know what? If those people on the sell side were damaged, then we on the buy side were damaged. And so that's the Batten, and it's involved the Batten 2, and the projected damages on that exceed Sitzer. And so that's still floating around. And in the meantime, you still have Zillow suing Northwest MLS, and you got NAR just settled in an Armstrong case. So there's lots of litigation in the real estate space right now.
Wow.
Has been for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
NAR does its best to fight it off, but it's like there are so many that it's not easy.
But can't I just go into AI and ask what my compensation should be? Isn't that the whole basis of the whole lawsuit? If AI is going to tell me the percentages anyways, couldn't you then open up an entirely new avenue?
Well, so I got this other, so you might be right about that. So here's what I think about AI. People worry about AI taking people's jobs. And what I believe is that you don't have enough people being born around the world. And in about 10 years, you're going to be happy you got AI to be doing a lot of this stuff, because there aren't going to be enough people to do it.
Well, that's a good point.
Your lips to God's ears. I mean,
our schools are looking at a cliff of people that aren't going to college anymore because the bodies aren't there for the colleges that they're used to.
The body or the will, right? There's a difference.
The bodies, yeah. There's
bodies aren't there. Costs are
kids.
down. I am both exhilarated and terrified at the thought of 10 years from now, the guy who grew up with AI, the smartest guy in the class, had the smartest tool in the class and got to get smarter and smarter and smarter every year. He could pace himself to AI. Those are that 10 years, those are the geniuses coming out of school. That's something to talk about until you turn the AI off, and then they can't get out of a room with a locked door. Hence why realtors,
unless they have a locksmith on the other side. I gotta say though, and Dan, you're right, as far as just not enough bodies, to fill positions. Had the honor of being at an event yesterday morning, and they were actually celebrating students that were going into careers versus college. Thought it was it's important to celebrate these things if these kids are really serious. And the largest cluster that was there was the construction and skilled trades. Super exciting to me. I thought that was great. But to Dan's point and to Saul's point, it's, there's a lot, there's more than there ever was. They're not going to college necessarily. A lot of them are going into the field, but it's still not enough. It's still not enough. It's still a massive gap of, and I don't have to go anywhere, but I spoke to two or three electrical firms and a ductwork guy today, just random conversations. And it really didn't have to do with that topic, but it always goes around that topic, because my final thing I always ask is there anything we could help you out with? If I get a few more people, if I get a few more guys, I don't care, whoever it is, if I get a few, every single one of them, single one of them. But
what are those jobs paying, Chris?
Paying enough. They're not too bad. They're paying enough to have me go back and start thinking about going to school. I mean, I don't know the exact pay. It depends on the jobs and prevailing wage and hourly and all that sort of stuff. But, they're making good money, and a lot of them are in a company truck. And if they're not in a company truck, they're in their own truck. That is no slouch. That's for sure. So, in the 40s and 60s and 70s range, at least. I mean, I'm spitballing numbers.
Well, so while enrollment is up, it's completion that's really down, right? People are just not completing. They're going another route. Maybe they're going the trades. Maybe they should have gone to the trades in the first place. But
if you think of it, if we dial back, even when all of us were probably younger, how many times I've said this or heard this about, where I ended up versus where I planned on going. What degree I planned on getting and where I planned on going. That's been happening forever, but now there's just so many other little caveats and elements to it. The exposure that comes with not only obviously the internet, but AI and everything that's out there, the exposure that an 18-year-old, 19-year-old, 24-year-old that's not sure what they want to do, 26, 27, 28, 32, they want to switch careers. The exposure to different avenues is by far much larger than anything that we've ever. You don't have to physically be somewhere to get that experience that someone can just, hey, I want to do this. Hey, build me a business plan. Hey, do this. If they're smart enough to angle it the right way, they could really make a living doing, I don't want to say anything, but almost anything. And the idea of being happy and the idea of being, fulfilled and all that sort of stuff has also taken more of a front seat to, paying bills, getting a mortgage. I mean, you look at, this goes off a little bit different, but how many 16, 17-year-olds don't have that much interest in getting their driver's license?
And that blows my mind.
Totally. It's just wild stuff that they kind of,
yeah.
It's just a different way of going about things.
But they got to live somewhere and they got to work somewhere.
I just queried my AI, Andreas.
Sorry.
And the average per woman, 1.6 children. So per couple, 1.6 children. In the 50s, it was 3.5 per woman. Or 2007, it was 2.1, and today it's 1.6, which takes me back to the idea you're going to be happy that there's AI taking jobs, because there aren't going to be enough people. We're not even replacing ourselves. And this is not only a U.S. issue, this is a worldwide issue. And you look at China, they had a one-child policy for how long?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, so it's like the whole world is going to be happy that we're progressing the way we are with AI, because there aren't going to be enough people around to do the work.
And Saul, that's where we have to also, the whole issue of immigration is got to, we came close under George W.
Remember
Bush.
our purple state here.
I know, but that's the big issue is immigration is supposed to be the thing that's going to help us, and we got to figure that out. But that's a very hot potato discussion, but that's a big deal.
Well, I know we can look the people and to Saul. You're right. Are we making there's a reason we're in the greatest transfer of wealth in human history, right? We had more children that amassed more wealth, and they're coming of age and they're transferring out of said wealth. And the fact that some of those children can't handle said wealth is the reason why most realtors are really working hard today, right? The fear that less qualified people or less capable people are coming, coupled with the fact you just threw at me from one of your AIs, that there aren't enough children out there is a scary thought. Certainly a scary thought. And as we go into scary thoughts, we're already at 10 minutes to the hour. So,
are we really? The time just flew. Oh my God.
Dan, over to you to the right. I'm thinking of the 1.5 children, and I'm trying to do my real estate model on how many clients I'll have in 10 years. But luckily, in 10 years, I'll either have made it or not. So what's the one big piece of advice you can give your client base, you give your customer base, give yourself, if you could look back 10 years on someone in your role or in the industry? What should they do?
So I'm always going to go back to this. It's a super important thing that you're involved with your local association, your state association, your national association of realtors. The organizations are able to help you connect with your peers. They might be your competitors, but what they say, iron sharpens iron. Working with your peers and growing with them and talking about issues. Of course, the realtors at the local, state, national level have staff that help protect our private property industry. And the more you can stay engaged with your national association, please do. Don't, some people talk about, I don't want to join my association because I'm just going to get MLS and not join my association. That's crazy. You need both. You need your MLS, obviously, to do your job, but your association provides you so much more to be able to get you to be the realtor that everybody wants to hire. And I'm a big proponent of being involved with our real estate world.
Well, it's iron, to what you said, iron sharpens iron, right? There is a code of ethics that is imbued as part of being with NAR.
Yeah.
If you're no longer part of that, if you no longer subscribe to that, then all of a sudden you may in fact be one of those third world countries that envy us for our ethics, for our standards, and so on. So I like everyone on this show, at least the hosts, we're happy to be card-carrying members of an association or a union, right? Because it elevates iron sharpens iron. So I love that. And I thought you were going to go look to history with Abe behind you. But...
Yes, of course. Well, bringing people together was what Abraham Lincoln was all about. So God bless our Abraham Lincoln in the land of Lincoln here. I could talk for the next 5 hours about Lincoln if you want me to. But his thing is one of his big things was the rule of law. And at 29 years old, he gave an incredible speech called the Lyceum speech at the Young Men's Organization. And he said, everything for our country is about the rule of law. And if we get away from that, then we are doomed.
It's a repeating theme I hear on this show now for years, over X amount of episodes. It's always an organization, it's an association, it's you are who you're with, right? And I like what you said this show, iron sharpens iron. So speaking of iron sharpening iron over in California, so what's the biggest piece of advice you want to give to our audience?
I thought you were going to ask me the same thing you asked Dan over the last 10 years. And I would say 10 years ago, I was retired.
You foretold everything we're going through now. And you've been retired 10 years ago. I met you it's longer than that. By the way, to my lovely wife, 12 years on the 11th. So happy.
There you go.
So today is my granddaughter's 30th birthday. So,
wow.
What I tell her is she got to get in and start using these AI models, right? You have to get used to using it. I tell this story when I was at the Naval Academy in 1968 to 1972. They were part of the Princeton Dartmouth time sharing computer system. And so they made the professors integrate some computer use, even in what we call in English and history classes and psychology class. They instituted some kind of computer use. And the reason was they wanted us to get used to using computers, not to know how to take them apart, not to know how to build them, but to be comfortable using them. And because we became comfortable using them, when we got to the fleet and they started delivering weapon systems and ships that use computers, we weren't, even though we didn't know how they worked, we weren't afraid to use them and play with them and try them. So AI is going to become part of your life, and go in and try it and query it. And don't think that any question that you write is too complicated. I write long, compound questions, and it's amazing how it can handle that. And so the more you use it, the more you're going to trust it, and the more you're going to find other uses for it. And it is the future. So if you're not doing it right now on a daily basis, you really ought to start doing it.
Well, and it's the present, whether you want to use it or not. Google, Netflix, Amazon, they're all now relying on AI in some fashion. And I believe that Blitzkrieg was the book you had shared with me to read. And in that book, it stated Netflix makes up 18% of internet traffic. So they're using it. By the way, 72%, according to my AI, and I'm not going to say which one, 72% of Americans are in fact using it on a daily basis already, right? And Chris, over to you.
I'm gonna piggyback a little bit about what Dan was saying. Stay connected to those that you are around and need to stay connected with. We started off the show and you mentioned to Dan and I, hey, it's been a little while, whatever the case is. And I texted you earlier today, Andreas, and I said, I'm looking forward to the show. 100%. Give him a heads up. Hey, I'm going to be there. I know it's been a couple months, but also I'm looking forward to it. And, it's now been, it's been 6 years? Is it 6 years yet? Just about?
It's over. 2019.
Okay.
Was when we officially aired. I think we actually were a couple months ahead of that.
Yeah.
2019 is what AI tells me anyways.
And here's the thing. I tell people this all the time when I'm out and about. I'm amplifying the group here kind of one by one when I'm out and about. And I would not ever want to be in a situation where I'm, I miss it when I'm not here. And when I think of data differently since pretty much show number 1 or show number 2, just because of hearing the word over and over again and hearing what Saul has to say about it. Honestly, same thing with Dan in politics and Becca with marketing and, more cognizant of what cybersecurity, think about where cybersecurity is now talking about AI, where it was when we first started this.
Policy.
What's that?
The whole new insurance policy, but go on.
It's absolutely. So, but the reason I'm there is because I've made a commitment to stay connected. And this obviously goes beyond the podcast. It goes with all my networks and my people and stuff, but to stay connected to those that are around, because there's a lot of value that can be had. And the only way to do that, you can listen to podcasts, you can be on podcast, you can follow the people that are on podcast, but that's one thing. But when you're out and about and you're in networking circles and all that sort of stuff, there's no way that anyone could say that the people that are in their networking circles, that they stay around, that they're not learning something from. Yeah. It might be as simple as a word that they've heard 3 or 4 times and went and looked it up, or it could be something as big as, business dealings and actual business being had. So it's a pretty simple piece of advice, but staying connected to those who are kind of in your groups and in your circles. And obviously a lot of that has to do with association. So I second what Dan was saying in regards to, I'm in renewal season and I see some members not renewing, and it's like, you're stepping over a penny to pick up $1. Just keep the investment on the table. It's not about my retention rates. It's about what you can actually get out of this if you stay in and focus on these things. So it's exciting stuff. There's so much to talk about.
And I think I can still plug you and say you're still the nation's leader in retention, over 90% year on year, just kicking butt for your association.
I'm trying. 2026 will I don't know if we're going to get to that 95, but we collected our awards in Indianapolis at the conference last week, so it's all good.
Well, so that goes back to network is net worth, and now more than ever, being true to your network and being present, because you don't know who's on the other end of the machine. Saul, to your point, you can ask long-winded questions. I believe there's AI all around this from a mental health standpoint. You can talk to it all day. It'll never get tired. It'll never stop listening. It'll just continue on, assuming you're paying for it, not on a free version. It'll just continue on until you hit a bumper.
Try this one. What's the meaning of life?
Depends which AI you ask.
It'll exactly.
If it's the paid version or not.
Just like it depends which person you ask that same question to.
Yeah.
So I get my biggest piece of advice as we run over the hour here is the following. Prompting your AI and which AI you use matters. So you can set rules forever. It'll never forget. So I'm going to share a term that was shared with me that I now deploy and our company deploys, and it works incredibly well. And that's called RICE. What role do you want your AI to take? What is the instruction you're giving the AI? What is the context or background information the AI needs via upload or where you're pointing it? And then what is an example of what you want the output to be? And you will truly, truly be stunned by what comes out of it, assuming you know the material well enough to know when it hallucinates. So as someone came to me the other day and they said, could we do an RFP through an AI? I said, absolutely not. That's a specialized return. We could do some grunt work, but not the entire thing, right? Or a grant, so on and so forth. Without the data, garbage in, garbage out, without the context, it doesn't work. AI can't run Saul's car wash without knowing about his machine and knowing about his customer base. You need the data. It can try. All right, to our audience, again, special thank you. As always, every month you're showing up. More and more of you are showing up. Please tell more of your friends, both U.S. and abroad, even though 85% of commercial real estate investment is U.S.-based, 25% is overseas at this show. So we are all citizens of this world, and we're all here helping one another grow. Thank you for tuning in. Tune in next month. Please do rate and review us. It really does help. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to the Real Estate Roundtable, powered by CRECo.ai, your source for the latest in real estate and technology. For past episodes, sector interviews, and more great content, follow us on all social media and YouTube at CRE Collaborative. You can also find us anywhere you listen to podcasts. Please like, subscribe, and share. It really does help. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you at the next Real Estate Roundtable.
Oh,